Good morning, BookTube. Hope you all had a nice 2024 and have a good start to 2025. Me myself, it's early morning. You doing what I usually do? Sit by the window, my cup of coffee, get the radio going. A little classic rock with Jim Kerr, a legend in this area, as well as the pop station 94.3 The Point, Lou and Michelle. That's what I love to do in the morning. Here I am to break down my the top five reads of 2024. So let's get right into it. Just point out my top five reads. I'm not thinking as a critic, not in terms of like what I gave 5 stars to or anything like that. I'm going with the 5 reads that I love the most, regardless of what star rating I gave them. Like whatever reason these books had an impact on me. Uh, like 3 of them were really surprises that I just picked up by chance and I ended up loving them. Had a big, profound effect on me this year. So let's get started with the top 5. Number 5. I remember I saw this book on the shelf in Barnes and Noble, the new releases, and I just like stared at it because I had a lot of questions just looking at the cover. So the book's called "The Summer We Crossed Europe in the Rain." One of the questions I asked was it Kazuo Ishiguro? I recognize that name. He's a Nobel Prize-winning author, so that jumped out at me. Then at the bottom here, you notice it says lyrics for Stacey Kent. Like, who's Stacey Kent? I looked her up. Turns out she's a contemporary jazz singer. I'm listening to her a lot on Spotify too. She has absolutely gorgeous voice. And on the back, you notice it says illustrated by Bianca Bagnarelli. Thinking, I don't know who that is either. So I'm just like staring at this cover. I'm like, what is this? So it turns out what this is. There's a whole story behind it. Well, first off, Kazuo Ishiguro, before he was this famous writer of novels, he was a songwriter. And Kazuo and his wife are very good friends with Stacey Kent and her husband. And Stacey and the husband asked him to write new songs for her. And he did. So he wrote new songs for her. They put the lyrics of those songs in this book. And Bianca Bagnarelli, an Italian artist, did the illustrations. So that's what it was really a random thing. I just to find on the shelf. It grabbed me as soon as I saw it. Like I said too, as you go in the book, it's almost like reading a little book of poetry and a graphic novel at the same time. See, there's illustrations for each song in there. It's just beautiful to look at too. Yeah, there's just one random one I came across. It's called Bullet Train, like that train in Japan. It's this couple, the husband's sleeping on his partner's shoulder. She's looking out the window. Yeah, it's really caught me by surprise too. It kind of romanticizes traveling. Also, heartbreak, you used to go places with people that maybe they're not in your life anymore. You broke up or they passed away. So yeah, it's all like a little love letter to traveling. It really caught me by surprise. Highly recommend it. Number 4, I don't have a physical copy because I only have it as the audiobook. It is Kings of the Wild by David Eames. Now, this was my foray into fantasy, if you will, because I've never been a big fantasy reader. But I heard about this one. It's like your typical guys at the knights going on a quest with all sorts of monsters and whatnot. But apparently it's heavily themed on 80s hair metal and rock and roll. It's all the vocabulary. When these group of guys go on a quest, they say we're getting the band back together, and they didn't even say they're going on a quest or adventure. They say we're going on tour. It's all this 80s verbiage. A lot of the names, the town they're from is called Coverdale. David Coverdale was a big singer who's been around since the 60s actually, but he was the leader of the band called Whitesnake in the 80s. So it's all sorts of names and whatnot that are, its whole all these ties into the 80s. So that intrigued me. What I didn't expect was how funny it would be. It's you got these older guys, they go on a quest, the one guy's daughter, she's off fighting monsters, defending the territory, but he's afraid that she might have she's either gone missing or she's dead. So and the daughter's name is Rose, Axl Rose of the band Guns N' Roses. And so that's the story. These old men get back together to go see if this man's daughter is still alive. They get mugged 2 or 3 times along the way too because they're old and just out of it. Absolutely hilarious. It really caught me by surprise and couldn't recommend it more. It's the reason, like I said, I was never a big fantasy reader to begin with, but after that, I don't know what else I've been missing all this time. So I plan on getting into more fantasy throughout the year as well. remember I said at the beginning, like these books on the list aren't necessarily like 5-star reads. I'm going with what impacted me the most. Well, this was a 5-star for me. Back when I participated in Shakestember, where we read Shakespeare in the month of September, I decided to read this one, Macbeth. This a true testament to how big this one is. To this day, there's a superstition that you can't say the name Macbeth in a theater because it's bad luck. Now, I apologize if you're watching this video in a theater. I'm saying the name Macbeth through the phone and it goes through your theater. I don't know if the rules apply there, so hopefully not. Sorry. And so, yeah, Macbeth, the ultimate tragedy. So, the King Macbeth in Scotland, excuse me, he's not a king yet, but Macbeth is visited by 3 witches, told that he will be king. And so he has this on his mind. And meanwhile, Lady Macbeth, his wife, she almost like bullies him. Like she like prays to the gods that he has the strength to kill the king and take the throne himself. And like she like kind of questions his manhood. Like she really like bullies him and pushes him into doing it. And he decides to go through with it. And when you, it's all about guilt and consequences for your actions. I will say that, like, oh Lord, like yeah, you do something terrible. It's not just gonna sit on your mind. Like it's gonna have a big effect on you, and it's gonna haunt you. I think that's the best way to put it. So yeah, one of my favorite reads ever. You see this being like an annual thing. It's it's a play. It's pretty quick to read. So yeah, Macbeth, everyone. Number 2, we're getting back to the surprises of this year. I came across this one author. He's an author and a poet. I don't remember how I came across him exactly. I think probably another booktuber mentioned him, and then I checked him out. He's written a number of books, but this was his memoir. It was called "Why Fathers Cry at Night" by Kwame Alexander. You know, what was I going to say? Yeah, like it was one thing was very interesting. Like it's his memoir, but he doesn't tell like a typical memoir. I was born here, lived here, moved there, met this person, blah blah blah. Like he tells like stories of his life and the people in his life through like his poems. And like poetry was one thing I wanted to dive into more this past year as well, which I definitely did. And this I should just go a little bit more about like the a little more to the title. Why Fathers Cry at Night is a memoir in love poems, letters, recipes, and remembrances. It says it. The title sums it up pretty well in itself. You know, and kind of by surprise too. Like like a lot of stuff I relate to this book too. Like just as a human being, we all go through the same experiences. Also too, like I enjoyed it because it's like a little man-to-man talk here. A little like some things are something specific in here about like we men and like like there's one poem specifically about like when he lost his mother. Like my mother passed away not long after, like maybe a couple years after his mother did. There's very specific things for us males that we can relate to, as well as a whole bunch of things that really any human being can relate to as well. One of the things I took away from here too are like he shares some of his family recipes, different desserts, whatnot. I'm not gonna lie, they sound amazing. So at some point I might have to turn this channel into a cooking channel and just try some of the recipes that are in here. Hopefully I don't butcher them too badly. But yeah. Father's Cry at Night, probably my big surprise of the year. And finally, folks, number 1, I don't have a physical copy. Once again, I have the audiobook. I will get more into that in just a moment. But it is my number 1 read of 2024. It's Pet Sematary by Stephen King. Now, I never read this before. I'd never seen any of the movies before. And first things first, I got the audiobook. The audiobook was narrated by Michael C. Hall, the actor who portrayed Dexter in the show. And ask anyone who knows Dexter and loves Dexter, one of the best parts of that show is Dexter's inner monologue. Like he's narrating each episode essentially. So when I heard the man was doing audiobooks, I knew it would be amazing. And this was the first book I got. I remember way back, Rachel from Shades of Orange, her channel, she had mentioned she got the audiobook and just casually mentioned Michael C. Hall, and I remember I messaged her back, I'm like, oh geez, that should be amazing. And indeed it was. And this is the horror I love too, because you can't really scare anybody anymore. And this book came out in like the early 90s, so I guess that's why it resonates with people today, because you can't scare people anymore. Like really all horror can do now is entertain you or disturb you. And this book definitely leans more into like the disturbing side because it plays on your like human emotions. It's like I don't know, like just I'll give you a little spoiler warning just to be safe anyway. But like it's about grief, like it's the man's son. Even if you never read this, you may be just slightly familiar with the story. But like the man's son dies. It's like this little boy, and like he buries him in like this like haunted burial ground. The kid comes back to life, but it's not him. And like it was just like the scene like where the father digs up the son's body from his grave and like opens the coffin. Oh, it's just hard to read. Like it's just weird to read. Like I said, it plays with your emotions, to just the grief. It's just very uncomfortable. And to me, that's true horror nowadays. So yeah, sorry, number one ended on such a downer, but it was amazing. So if you ever check it out, I highly recommend the audiobook. Oops, sorry. I have my coffee cup on the mantle here. I actually hit the spoon. Sorry about that. Okay. Let's see. There we go. I almost knocked the phone over too. All right, folks. There you have it. My top 5 for 2024. I got some books on my little desk behind the camera there. I'm gonna look forward to getting to the start of 2025. I'm gonna start doing more individual videos too. Like rather than do a wrap up, I'll do a quick little video here or there to talk about what I'm reading as I go along. Get a few words here and there. So let's see. I'll get a little engage in more conversations that way. People see a video, they see specifically what I'm reading, and we can engage a little more in conversation that way. Anyway, folks, it's still early. Like I said, I had to get back to Jim Kerr on the radio, listen to some classic rock. Have a good one, everyone. I'll catch you down the road.